who's new. We are finishing up phase 1 of the Noah's Archipelago Book of Days project, which started as a Noah's Archipelago 2027 calendar project. This is the webcomic I've been doing, or I was doing for the last few years, and then I decided more recently I'm going to move it into a graphic novel sort of project with longer book issues and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so it's going to be Christmas in June as we get through this. I'm just trying to adjust my camera here. And our main character, Noah, is going to be dressed up as Santa, and his wife, Ruth, as Mrs. Claus. And he's got his mistletoe ball that he's chasing her around the house with. So we're going to start with outlining with pigment liners. I like these Staedtler ones, although I've got a couple, I don't even know what, this is a Stabilo fine liner. I've got some microns and whatnot as well. And then after that, we will color in with markers, mostly alcohol markers, but sometimes for certain colors, I use just plain old-fashioned markers. So while I do this, I'm going to say, starting next week, actually, I've been doing it a few times over the last few weeks. If I've finished the main illustration early, I then break out the dip pen and liquid ink and do cast portraits for a different Noah book project that I'm very close to finishing. So, depending how long this one takes, we'll probably get one or maybe even two of those cast portraits done in a little bit. And then for the next week to maybe 3 weeks, I don't think it'll be 3 weeks, but a couple weeks anyways, we will do our streams finishing off those cast portraits. And then we will start illustrating some Noah short stories, the first of which will be for a newsletter freebie kind of deal. So that's the general plan going forward. And then because I changed partway through from doing these illustrations for a calendar to doing them for a book, I need to actually write the stupid book. So a book of days is the idea. Originally, I think was kind of more of a religious thing about, what saint's feast day was on each day, that kind of idea, right? There was, I think the guy's name was Chambers in the 1800s who did a book of days that was kind of like included folklore and holiday observances and whatnot. Now, Noah here never met a holiday he didn't like, including fake ones or, made up ones like National Peach Cobbler Day, that sort of thing. So the Noah's Archipelago Book of Days is going to deal with those sorts of holidays. I mean, obviously this one's going to be a Christmas illustration, although mistletoe, not specific. I mean, it's a Christmas season thing, but not a specific Christmas day kind of thing. So anyways, I will be in the next couple months, probably several months, going through and compiling lists of various holidays and observances, writing some pithy sort of little bits about them for the book, and then we will come back and do more illustrations from the book. But in the meantime, we will be working on other Noah-related illustrations. So that's the general plan. And it's kind of weird to be working on Christmas-related stuff in June, but then, hey, I was doing November stuff last week, Halloween before that, etc. I guess one gets used to it. I always used to hear about, in the music business, if some artist has like a Christmas album coming out, they're probably writing it maybe at Christmas and then recording it in like February, March, doing them, and because they got to get the manufacturing done and get the promotional plan in place and all this sort of stuff. So it ends up being, that they're in the studio singing about sleigh bells and whatnot when it's more properly St. Patrick's Day and or summer vacation. Well, summer vacation would be leaving it quite long. Although I guess nowadays with people doing their own releases, they probably do. If you have a faster turnaround time because you're not dealing with a record label or whatnot, you may well be recording your Christmas song at like this time of year. Still, it feels weird, but I'm having to get used to this whole idea of, um, planning ahead and whatnot. What I'm going to be starting working on Monday on what was the Miles stream, since I finished that phase one last night, is next Monday we will be starting to work on illustrations for Ricky Be the Rock and Roll Rat short story that involves Miles, and that's actually about Thanksgiving. So we'll be doing a whole bunch of Thanksgiving type illustrations on the Monday, although a lot of them kind of, Thanksgiving is kind of part of it, but not exclusively the whole story. So I'm going to pause here to go to a finer liner because Noah has a hairy chest. He likes making damn sure everybody knows it. So where's my finer marker? Generally speaking, I find using an alcohol marker over these pigment pens doesn't usually bleed, but or smudge, but sometimes it does. So always kind of be pretty careful over this. But by the time I get around to coloring, it should have completely dried, even though it'll be dry to the touch even right about now. Anyways, let's carry on with Noah. Making his Santa suit a little bit extra billowy because that's also how he wears his regular shirts, just, unzipped or unbuttoned and poofed out. Kind of a Fabio meets Robert Plant kind of a vibe. Santa's buckle thing. I remember, God, it's over 10 years ago now, but for a little while I worked for Michael's part-time retail gig, and I remember that I started working for them, I think, in like October maybe, and I remember that it was such a huge thing that year in December. The containers that had the motif for it was like Santa's belt. I just thought it was the weirdest thing, but somebody who came up with that design made a killing off of it, I guess, so I really shouldn't comment. Now for this, I'm going to kind of outline the outline, and then I'm going to use the finer, instead of a 1.2, probably about a 1.7 or a 0.5 to actually outline all these little berries and leaves and whatnot. Trying to work with the assumption that Noah is using actual natural mistletoe, which is very kind of skinny, kind of oval, but also kind of stringy, almost looking leaves. So there we have that. And back to the fatter outline. I'm going to try and keep the habit, even though these pigment liners dry pretty quick. I still try and keep the habit I have from using liquid ink where I work top left down to bottom right, just because, you know, if you kind of make exceptions, then when you are working with the thing where you can't do an exception, you're 100% going to smudge it. And I have definitely had that happen. Or I start drawing something here and I'm like, oh, over here, and then there's a big black smudge. But, you know, Photoshop is our friend, or Clip Studio Pro, Procreate, whatever you like. I'm actually still running Photoshop on a MacBook Pro 17-inch from like 2008, which has Creative Suite 2 on it. So I took the new media design program at BCIT back then and decided just before graduation to spend the obscene amount of money to buy the software. But you know what? It's still going. So ended up being a decent decision, I guess. Now, when, or hopefully that computer keeps going, but if and when it does crap out, the way that Adobe is currently managing Creative Suite stuff and the subscriptions, I will not be continuing with them. I would at that point. I do already have Clip Studio Pro. Kitty Loves Fish says, you're so good at drawing. Oh, thank you, Kitty, and welcome to the stream. Trying to get like I was saying, I have Clip Studio Pro. I'm still kind of getting the hang of it. Like, it works very close to what well, not InDesign, what Photoshop will do, but some things are in just slightly different configuration on the menus. I'm still trying to get a hold on it, but really should try and have like a every Sunday afternoon or something, spend an hour in Clip Studio Pro mucking around, and I would probably pick it up so much faster if I did that. By the way, the underdrawing here is a non-photo blue pencil. Now, you know, one of these guys. Now, it's only non-photo blue if you're scanning in black and white. Can I draw a fish? Sure. Let me grab a spare sheet of paper that I've got. That one's kind of messed up. But yeah, so because I'm going to be doing this drawing in color, it will definitely pick up. So what I try and do is keep that underdrawing very in line so that I can make it fade out or whatever. So let's see here. It's going to be a bit of a stylized fish. Hope you don't mind. The one I'm thinking of at the moment is kind of like a beta. I haven't had betas in quite some time. I used to have an aquarium, but that was a while ago. So yeah, I had when I lived in the suburbs of Vancouver, I had an aquarium for years and years and years. And then when I moved over here to Vancouver Island, I don't know. I just like everything kind of survived the move and whatnot, but I had a much harder time maintaining the tank over here. And I bought some plants from a local, not like an aquarium store, but one of the pet stores that one probably shouldn't really buy from. Um, and I don't know, there was some kind of like parasite that ended up. I can't remember now whether it was like a kind of a snail or it was like some weird, creepy kind of thing. Because it wasn't really worms, but I don't remember. But they they went to town in the tank, and I think they actually ended up attacking, and fish didn't survive in that tank after I moved here. And then the water quality was way harder to control and all that. Anyways, it ended up being a bit of a disaster. So I haven't had a fish tank in uh, close to 10 years, probably 8 or 9. Um, one of these days, maybe I will again. So, there you go. Now, I'm just looking to see what I've got color-wise. Not the best paper for markers, but we can throw a little color on. Use some. Pretty sure I used to have betas that were kind of red. Yeah, there's certain things occasionally we'll get people asking me about like, oh, can I draw this character or that character? And sometimes when it's a character, it's like, I don't know, you know. But animals frequently I can sort of ballpark them. That's pretty good, kind of a base color. Yeah, animals and whatnot. It's funny when I for like people and whatnot, like if I know how to draw a certain person or I kind of have a mental image of what they look like, then I can do it no problem. But if somebody kind of suggested, say, a celebrity or something where I've never drawn them before and I don't really know what they look like, it usually looks really bad. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of need some practice for getting likenesses down. But that's kind of what I'm kind of envisioning is some of the betas that have darker red. Yeah, that one's kind of good where the really bright red is kind of just a little bit of a flash in the scales, but Your kid used to eat all the fish. Oh. Well, that's one way to reduce tank maintenance, I guess. Little kids do all kind of things, right? Because you don't really, when you're little, you don't really think about that. I think when I was little, we did have fish tanks then as well. I think they were kind of more my brother's responsibility, but I do remember like looking at them and whatnot. Uh, Now we are working on Noah's wife, Ruth, who apparently, by the looks of her, has had kind of enough of this mistletoe stuff. He's been at it all day, after all. And she's got stuff to do. And it looks actually like they're on their way out to some sort of a party. I'm just going to put a kind of a simple horizon line in. Hopefully that's not too tilted. I feel like it is tilted, actually. Yeah, it's definitely tilted. Oh, well. So now, of course, from the fish drawing, I already know what my real Christmas red is going to be. And we will mix it. Let's grab old red and deep red. So I have those on hand to do some shading as well. And with these, I don't worry too much about, where you get the overlapping lines where the strokes happen. I just kind of figure that's part of the medium. So it's part of the style. And I start, like I was saying a little bit about the blue underdrawing. That is definitely going to show where it's white. But all the marker drawings have at least some of it. So sometimes the way that you make your mistakes go away is that you just repeat them until it becomes like a style thing. So for this particular book, that's going to be the case for sure. Trying to avoid is too much bleeding from the markers into the white. So if I do get that, then I'll probably use Photoshop to remove it. But a little bit here and there is fine, but I don't want it to go too wild and crazy. We're going to keep the background pretty simple. I think I'll decide after I get the figures done. Obviously, that's going to be green, so we don't want the background to be too green because then that's going to kind of eat that. I will kind of show the background I did last time. So this is their daughter Ursula with the colored dots. Let me do something similar here because that's kind of harkens back to what I was doing when I was doing this web as a web comic and doing it in Procreate, I would do those kind of like layers of colored dots and whatnot, and messing with transparency for the background. So it's kind of already part of the visual identity of Noah's Archipelago. I'm not going to leave the trim as a flat white. I will kind of come in with some like really pale gray, and there's another one in here that's not pastel peach, but there's another one that's kind of like called pearl or something that's a super pale beige that barely shows up. So we will have a little bit of tone in the fur trim, but the other thing I want to say about next week's stream is we will be changing format as well. So instead of streaming from my phone like I'm doing right now with a vertical stream, I'm going to be streaming from my laptop using OBS. So I'll have a document camera. Be very similar if you've seen any of my Zalmo, well, not any, but the last month's worth of Zalmo the Destroyer streams. Be similar format. So it'll be landscape, like horizontal, and then I can also start with, what I usually do for the Zomo is, even though my streams start at 6:30, I'll book the or schedule the stream to be at 6:25. Get OBS up and running, and then I have like a little countdown um, video clip type of thing, and that I made with, actually, Zalmo isn't in it. Noah and Ricky B, the Rock and Roll Rat, are in it. So it'd be kind of nice to actually get that sorted out. Anyways, so we'll be able to actually use some of that other stuff, and then if I wanted to insert a video clip or something like that, that's also easier to do in that. Well, it's possible to do it in that format. It's not possible to do it streaming from the phone. So yeah, I think the streams will be better. Of course, they won't be being recommended on the vertical live feed, so I'm sure my numbers will go down. Well, the views will go down. Strangely enough, the watch time does not go down. In fact, compared to the number of viewers, the watch time actually goes up when I do those kind of streams for Zomo. So anyways, that's a little inside baseball. But I think also it makes, when you remove the whole vertical live feed thing, I think it actually makes it easier for YouTube to show it to the correct audience, you know. But that's just me being superstitious. Who knows? Anyway, so probably what I'm gonna do is actually kind of do that to make Ruth's arm thinner. Now I will go over, you see where I've got some thicker outlines. I'm gonna do that as well. Not everywhere, but in certain spots. But I always kind of do that after I've got the base color in. Just makes it kind of easier. And plus, you know, sometimes if you go a little over, that's an area where making the line thicker will clean that right up. So anyways, that'll be a step for probably half an hour from now or so. Like here, definitely where I'm kind of messing up a little bit and going over the edge. So these bigger illustrations are going to be kind of like chapter headers. So each month is going to have its own little section with the different observances and whatnot that take place in it. It's not going to be a comprehensive list, you know, so and obviously Christmas is kind of like an inescapable type of thing because it is such a huge part of Western culture, even if you're not Christian. But mostly I want to focus on, like, let me pick out a couple. Let me see here. Daily observances. National Day calendar. For example, today, it's National Hydration Day. National Detroit Style Pizza Day. National Pink Day. Well, I missed that boat today. National Pecan Sandies Day. The 27th is National Sunglasses Day. National Strawberry Parfait Day is on Thursday. Anyways, it's like that kind of thing, right? Let me go year at a glance. Since we're talking about December, let's pick out some random ones. If I can get the drop-down menu to stay put long enough for me to actually hit December days. National Eat a Red Apple Day, December 1st. National Package Protection Day, December 3rd. You know, like avoiding getting your stuff stolen off your front patio. National Sock Day, December 4th. I'm not going to read all of these, but there's got to be like a National Mistletoe Day. That's what I'm kind of looking for as I flip through these. National Poinsettia Day is December 12th. And National Wear Your Pearls Day, December 15th. So anyways, it's going to be those kind of days. Oh, hey, Derek, how's it going? Come on, can I draw you a candy house with colors? I can give it a shot. Let me see. We'll assume that this is kind of candy icing. Some gumdrops on the roof. Just kind of thinking you could use some like Twizzler type pieces for the what's the word I'm thinking? Window frames. I think what the door could be made out of. I don't know what they're called, but they're kind of like a gummy candy that's got a bit of a rainbow kind of a vibe. And see if the marker listed as chocolate actually is. It's not quite chocolate colored, but we'll make it work. Let's see what I've got that's a darker. I have the boards made out of different kinds of chocolate. would be the kind of thing that Ursula would draw when given home art class assignments about draw the house you want to live in when you grow up. I don't know what the name of this kind is called, but it's almost like um, it's like a kind of a sour gummy candy that's like in a tape kind of thing, and it's got like white sugar on it as well. Um, Now, I think, do I want to? I'm gonna do the peppermints in two different styles. One that's got like the we will build up darker colors as well. And I'll leave white as it's just icing, and then we need some gumdrops going on. And these I'm thinking there's kind of like a sugar wafer type of thing. Like at Halloween, sometimes they call them rockets and they're really tiny, but there's a bigger version that I remember as well. That'd be like super pale pastel colors. So I'm trying to find the lightest possible ones. It's gonna be way too pale. So there we have it, a little candy house made of chocolate with other candy stuck onto it. Now, let's pop back into our main drawing. So, going to do a little bit of shading here. Not too much, but you know, just a little. I don't know if that picked up in the mic. Something fell down on the elsewhere in the house. do his buckle here. Now, what I like to do when it comes to blacks is to kind of put a different tone underneath them first and then build it up. So let's assume his belt starts as like a bluish, and the boots kind of more as a brownish. Now, when this is all scanned and whatnot and printed and the book is done, is it actually are you gonna be able to tell these are two different shades of black? I don't know yet. But in the original art, often you can. So it gives a little more richness, I feel. So that's what we are going to do. At this point, this is still looking more navy. We will use an actual black marker on top as well, but first I have to find it. Hiding way down at the bottom. And then I think for the boots, we'll assume those are black leather and maybe they have more of that brown as the undertone. So So I'm using to darken up is this cool gray tone and then with the actual black in the darkest spots. So, I mean, this over top of brown is already looking pretty much black, but you can tell, maybe not in the camera, but looking at it closely, you can still see that it's kind of more of a brown black than a black black. And I don't know how. When I look at my laptop, they do kind of look like slightly different shades of black, right? And that's the idea because, you know, some leather that's black is going to have a lot of a blue tone to it. Some of it's going to have more of a brown tone to it. It depends on the dyes. It depends on the original color of the hide, all that sort of stuff. So just makes it a little richer than if you just kind of do that. I realized I was a little bit off camera there. But if you just use the plain black, it'll look a little more anemic or weaker than doing this sort of approach. Now, often Santa's mittens are shown as black. I've also seen some where the mittens are like a dark green, and that kind of gives a little variation. So just gonna test this here, and yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Will I think of it? No, I'm gonna do that after when I'm coloring in Ruth. So now, actually, the color we used in the candy house is going to be our base color for the mistletoe. Mistletoe greenery is it's a little bit sage green. So this will be the base color. And then we'll go over it and make it darker. But and with the non-photo blue pencil kind of showing through with berries, I may have to do a little photoshopping on the supposed to be white berries to get them to look right. Let's see, because I think warm beige, and that's not quite it. What is a marker in here? I swear. Maybe cream, is it? Nope. That is nowhere. Okay. This is my little test card. That is supposed to be cream. That is caramel. Pale cream. Okay, that's at least sort of in the ballpark of cream, although it's a very strong cream, not a pale cream. But I'm just thinking, do I have a better option? Pearl white. This is the one I was looking for. This is basically not going to show up, but so that's a very pale beige, creamy kind of color. So we are going to put a little bit of that onto some of these. And some of these it's not even going to show. So I pretty much am going to definitely have to Photoshop the mistletoe, but such is life. Now, I need to find my sagey green. because I don't want it to turn out like a grass green, because that's definitely not the right shade. It's kind of in the ballpark. Basically a blue tone. It's not really doing very much to this green. All right, now let's color these guys in. Let's start with Noah's hair. I kind of have a set formula for his hair that I know which colors I want. Same with Ruth, actually. I want to compare. This is the color I normally use for Ruth and her daughter Ursula's hair. Well, that's very close. I'm still going to use this as the main one, but it's good to know that quote unquote cream is actually very close to the color that they use for their hair. And Ruth has some red streaks in her hair, so skin color for Noah, Ohuhu, Wahoo, warm beige, and Ruth is pink frost. Noah's belly is another spot where I may end up doing some photoshopping because of the non-photo blue. I'm going to wait until I have other drawings in the book and kind of decide, does it stick out like a sore thumb? Does it bother me? You know, it's, put a bunch of these away so that I can start on the next phase. All It's been an hour and 15 minutes. We may not actually get to the cast portrait today, which is fine. It's like I said, the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks will be inking cast portraits to finish things up for the Noah's Archipelago book. The first one, that is. Looking for a really pale gray. Fog. This is the one I wanted. Also, it's too dark. So we're just going to have this may not even really show up in the camera as to what I'm doing, but I'm just putting in some tone. This one's like a super pale, I can barely see it once it dries, super pale like yellow color. And then I've got a gray and a purple. Definitely going to test both of these before I actually apply them. That one I think is pale enough for sure. Fog's even. The two, I think I put fog as a little more neutral. So. The idea is just to put a little bit of tone in that kind of gives the indication of which direction I was going to say the hair grows, but this is presumably, this would be faux fur, right? So it doesn't actually grow anyway, but I don't want it so heavy that it would start to look like ermine with the speckling. And then because this is a more neutral gray, it also kind of neutralizes a little bit with the other one. The pearl white is more of a super pale yellow. So it's subtle, but I think it does help. I'm not even sure if what I'm doing right now actually really even shows up on the YouTube feed. Can sort of just barely see it in the camera. Anyways, so that's the coloring on them. Now, I think I'm going to go with a very dark green on the floor. That's kind of more turquoise. Yeah, that'll work. I'm not going to worry about getting too close to Ruth because I think I'm going to go over with a different shade of green. So it almost give her like a halo. I'll do something a little different in that background. I think is going to be dots. There is actually a marker listed as shadow, which is actually a pretty good shadow color. So, it's somewhat subtle as well. And what I'm going to do in the background is going to be slightly different. Oops. That I will probably Photoshop, although when I do the thicker lines in a sec, it may not really matter. Do I want to add any other colors? I don't think so. So, what I'm going to do now is just fatten up the lines, some of them, and then we are pretty much going to call it a night, but we got another 10 minutes or so probably. So, you can tell just between the two pant legs that really helps make things pop. And kind of adds some order to those darker red lines, right? So, Now, I'm not going to do every single line with Ruth and Noah as a thick black line, but, some of them it definitely helps. Especially where there would naturally be like the outlines and then where there would naturally be shadows. So the bottom side of the fluffy stuff would have some sort of a shadow, right? Yeah, just a little bit of shadow in that ball kind of helps set it apart. this upside down to more easily reach Noah's head. So that kind of pops things a little better, I think. And I think we are gonna call it at that. So we didn't get to any cast portraits, but that's okay. We will do that next week. In fact, let me just flip through the ones that need to be done for the Noah's Archipelago comic treasury. We need to do Noah's mom, Refna. That's his eldest son, Adam. That's Adam's girlfriend. Then we need the second son, Duke. We've got a portrait of Ruth teaching. She is a second grade teacher. We got Noah singing on stage. So that one's, especially pen and ink, that's probably going to take a whole stream. Maybe not, but it seems like it might. We've got Ruth's parents, Agnes and Frank. And then got Adam's mom, Gigi. And there's Ursula. Gigi has a catering business, kind of cafe sort of thing. So Noah frequently goes and has lunch at Gigi's place, hangs out with Adam there, and then Noah's former bandmate and Gigi's dude. They've been living together for like 20 years, but Glenn does not believe in marriage. So, anyways, and then Glenn's a big car guy, and there's Ursula. The sign says don't touch, but she's ignoring it. So, 2, 4, 6 half pages and 2 full pages. So, I mean, that's might well be a month starting next week. So that's what we will be doing going forward. But this, I'm just noticing that I have a bit of, didn't go over this line or this one. Anyways, so with this being the December, so that we are now done the main month illustrations for that Noah's Book of Days, so the section headers. Sometime in the next week, I will do a flip through of the 12 of them, talk about the project, and do a separate video. This week, I'm going to be posting a version like that of the Miles stuff, because we also finished that phase 1 this week, I think. Well, I know we finished it, but I think I'll have the video out for this this weekend. Anyways, so like I said, next week we are going to be working on cast portraits for the first Noah comic treasury. So different book project. We've already done some bonus material, bonus cartoons for it in past live streams this year. And anyways, what I'm going to do for anyone who's just tuning in towards the end here, if you want to watch the whole stream, I save it as private so that YouTube can do its thing with video processing and quality and all that stuff. But when it finishes that sometime tomorrow afternoon, then I will go and make the stream public again. So if you do want to catch it up, it'll be sometime tomorrow. Rest of the week, tomorrow night we are streaming with Zamo the Destroyer, and we are beginning The World According to Zamo illustrations. And then Thursday we're back with Noah and company for the A to Z of Noah's job history, the coloring book I'm working on. So get probably 2, maybe 3 pages done with that. All line work. And then Friday, we are streaming Ricky B Goes to Sea. Again, 2, hopefully 3 pages will get done on that. And then next Monday, we will be starting a Ricky and Miles illustration project, which is Thanksgiving themed because it's going to take me that long to finish it. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed tonight's stream and drawing. And oh yeah, I guess I can also flip through and show her a couple of request drawings. So from Derek, he wanted a candy house with colors, and then Kitty Loves Fish asked for a fish, so I drew a beta. One of these days I might actually do a stream where it's actually like kind of like requests and whatnot, but if they're small, I don't mind popping over and doing one here and there. But anyways, so that's what we did tonight, and we will see you again real soon. Bye for now, and yeah. Like I said, streaming Monday to Friday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific on 5 different sub projects, 3 main projects: Noah's Archipelago, Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat, and Zummel the Destroyer. And then I've got 5 projects, like 2 Noah, 2 Ricky and Miles, and 1 Zummel underneath all that. So thanks for watching. See you again real soon.